Hey, how's it going? So, discontinued foods. You guys seem to like when I talk about that. And I've gathered a couple of them to talk to you about today. We have some Crystal Pepsi in the mix, some cereal sticks that were like a big trend in the 2000s, bizarre Doritos flavors, among some other surprises in the mix. I'm Zeep, welcome to 2023. It's gonna be a big year for this YouTube channel. Guys, I have to be incredibly thankful to you all, because I just got the 100K plaque, and this is just so surreal to me. Next up, the grand prize, 1 million. I truly believe we can do it, guys. If you want a sequel to this, get this to 5,000 likes. Anyways, let's talk about some lost food. Green and, purple ketchup. Wow, what a monstrosity. Here's something you gotta know about Heinz ketchup. They like to experiment. For them, if it ain't broke, try the most ridiculous things known to man. And no, I'm not talking about mayo chup, because that itself is pretty vanilla compared to what we're talking about today. So it's the turn of the millennium, the year 2000, and Heinz ketchup wants to experiment. They end up releasing something titled Heinz Easy Squirt Ketchup, marketed in an ad with an emphasis that it's used on food. And since it was the early 2000s, and people tended to like that wacky stuff, the ketchup was a huge success, with the brand reporting that in the first 3 months of the ketchup's release, they sold the same amount of bottles they expected to sell over the course of an entire year. It was yet another colorful fad. And in 3 years, the company managed to sell over 25 million bottles, eventually being discontinued in 2006. In fact, the release of the ketchup was made in support of the first Shrek movie.
Watch this. Bug on a button.
Shrek, you eat some funny stuff.
It's just green.
The new limited edition Shrek Easy Squirt bottles in stores now.
Of course, Shrek ended up being this big release. You know how when you were a kid, you saw like a Happy Meal toy and you loved this specific cartoon very much? When it came to Shrek, kids gravitated towards him. He was funny, a hero, and just overall epic. So of course, the color green, Shrek, the movie tie-in, this was destined to be a success. Here's the thing about the green and purple ketchup though. It went beyond the novelty of a movie tie-in. Yes, kids may have bought it because of Shrek, but they also may have stayed due to the thin nozzle on top of the ketchup, allowing children to draw whatever they wanted. It was wacky, it was unique. Not only that, but Heinz knew how to keep momentum. 2 years after the release of the green ketchup, the purple ketchup came out. A brand new flavor that led to kids to obsess over once again. Over the next few years, the company would continue on this trend, releasing the colors orange, teal, blue, pink, even introducing a mystery color line that could contain any of the colors just mentioned. As sales dwindled, the product was discontinued, returning only once in 2012 as a part of a Burger King promotion. But besides that, it has yet to return. Reactions to the ketchup were mixed, with some people finding it disgusting, while others just finding it like normal and just tasting like ketchup, although some people were adamant that it tasted different. It is possible that they did, because in order to make it a certain color, Heinz had to strip away the red color with chemicals, and add artificial colors into the ketchup. Not to mention, by the time 2006 rolled around, parental concerns over artificial colors being implemented into food were beginning to grow. All this artificial coloring and weird tasting sauces just reminds me of the pink sauce craze that only happened last year, and that itself disgusted me. Personally, I'm not a fan, but if you remember eating these, by all means, let me know in the comments below. Crystal Pepsi. They really do not make them like this anymore. So between the era of the late 1980s to early 2000s, there was a fad called the clear craze. You may remember this, but when it came to things such as like the Game Boy or Nintendo 64, or even say the IMAX, transparency reigned supreme. People liked looking at clarity. Like for example, take a look at this Game Boy. Isn't it cool looking at the inside of it? So when it came to American soft drinks, of course people wanted to see it in its most naked form for whatever reason. To coincide with the introduction of low-calorie or say light beverages, caffeine-free versions of soft drinks such as Crystal Pepsi coincided with this huge fad. Crystal Pepsi was really designed as a tool for visual persuasion, to make something seem as if it's more pure or healthy than it actually is. I mean, check out the ads for Crystal Pepsi. They made it seem as if you were becoming God if you drank it. Yes, drinking Crystal Pepsi will make you feel like a guy in a Speedo diving into the sky. So get this. In 1993, Pepsi went all in with Crystal Pepsi and spent millions upon millions of dollars to advertise it for the Super Bowl, with the song Right Now by Van Halen playing as it was marketed. All the imagery shown was just weird. There's like a baby crawling through the desert, which turns out to be like an ocean. At least I think it's like an ocean. Marketing executives would later state that the message of these ads were to say that there was no time like the present to enjoy Crystal Pepsi. Which, you know, after watching these ads, it doesn't make me want to drink Crystal Pepsi, it just leaves me to be more mesmerized by it. Something you need to know about this product is that it was tested all throughout cities across North America, and wasn't publicly marketed until late 92 to early 1993. Of course, Crystal Pepsi ended up becoming a success, but with such notoriety, other forms of competition came about. Yeah, that's right. Coca-Cola looked at this trend and tried to destroy Crystal Pepsi by promoting their own clear product, titled Tab Clear. When it came to the marketing of Tab Clear, instead of arguing like this deep, profound sense of optimism, Tab Clear promoted the idea that the soda was made in a Soviet lab and led to the downfall of the Soviet Union.
Head of Soviet forces is served Tab Clear in very cold glass, which sticks to his lip. He complains of glass frost. His generals hear glasnost. The Berlin Wall falls. Tab Clear. Suddenly, everything is clear. Try it.
Yeah, I kind of really love this ad. Tab Clear was referred to as kamikaze marketing. Essentially, Coca-Cola didn't think Tab Clear would actually survive. It was meant to confuse consumers by creating a terrible tasting beverage meant to destroy the Clear brand and kill both sodas. Yeah, it's hilarious. Tab Clear was meant as a sleeper agent soda that actually contained caffeine, unlike Crystal Pepsi, to try and confuse consumers that Crystal Pepsi was some sort of like this diet drink, which at the time was deeply unpopular. The thing was, Crystal Pepsi was actually popular. In 1992, it made over $474 million in the first months of its release, taking a whole 1% of the American soda market. To Coca-Cola, they wasted no time to try and destroy it. In one of the pettiest battles of all time, Coca-Cola versus Pepsi. When it came to Tab Clear's taste, it tasted like Coca-Cola, but not really, because the sugar levels were high and it had a lot of caffeine in it. Within 6 months, Coca-Cola pulled Tab Clear off the shelves. With tanking sales, Crystal Pepsi also had to pull the plug, because consumers had grown sick of the clear drinks, and this whole idea of fake purity. Coca-Cola succeeded in its mission to kill Crystal Pepsi. However, the drink still remains dominant in the memory of consumers. Culturally, Crystal Pepsi is not nearly on the same level of, say, New Coke, but is still remembered upon. Coca-Cola may have killed Crystal Pepsi, but they did not kill the idea. In 2013, a YouTuber by the name of LA Beast created a viral video of him drinking an over 20-year-old bottle of Crystal Pepsi. At first it begins kinda sweet, he talks about how it was like a childhood drink of his. But if you continue to watch the rest of the video, let's just say that there's vomit, like a lot. It's kinda gnarly, I would not recommend watching it if you just ate something. The video has almost gotten nearly 20 million views. It went so viral that multiple petitions came out after the release of the video, demanding Pepsi to bring back the Crystal flavor. In fact, in LA, there were 15 billboards erected demanding Crystal Pepsi to come back. The Pepsi company saw the interest, and in mid-2016, Crystal Pepsi returned to store shelves. To capitalize on the return of Crystal Pepsi, the company created the game The Crystal Pepsi Trail, a parody of the Oregon Trail. And this parody has a lot of attention to detail in 1990s callbacks. It's actually pretty cool. It's good to see that Crystal Pepsi actually got a happy ending. It's hard to know if this drink will ever come back ever again, but if it does, you bet I'll have myself a bottle. Cereal sticks, or cereal straws. So let me preface this before anyone gets mad. Recently, they brought back cereal straws, but before that, they had been discontinued for 12 years. So yes, by all definition, it was lost. Dude, I remember it being like 2009. They had like this Fruit Loop cereal straw, and I remember my mom packing it for me when I had a field trip to go to, like in the 4th grade. And when it came to lunchtime, it went hard. It went pretty hard. Basically, you'd take one of these out, they were crunchy, you'd be able to dip it into milk, of course drink the milk, and also eat the straw. It was a brilliant invention, one that the world was not ready for in 2009. Dude, even the ads for these went hard. You had like the trio Kellogg's guys singing about it and making this just look incredibly good. If it was so good, you're probably wondering what the hell happened. Well, in the midst of the Great Recession, a bunch of parents, I guess, got really pissed off over the fact that Kellogg's was advertising these excessively sugary products to little kids. Parent consumer groups were incredibly upset, leading for the Center for Science in the Public public interest, threatening a lawsuit against Kellogg's over the promotion of, quote, nutritionally poor foods. By the end of 2008, Kellogg's was told to either reformulate or discontinue products that didn't reach the criteria of nutritional standards. Although it isn't 100% confirmed and there hasn't been an official statement by Kellogg's of why the cereal straws ended, it's a safe bet to assume that this was the reason these straws are taken away from the children. These cereal straws were really a product of what it meant to be a 2000s kid. I remember it being a Saturday morning, I remember watching cartoons, sitting on the couch, sipping on my cereal straw, and not knowing that this was life. Many others have related to this memory, so much so that as the years went by, a petition was made in an effort to bring back these cereal straws. The petition reached over 80,000 signatures, with Kellogg's Cereal seeing this and deciding, oh my god, it's still tried the cereal straw. Right now, you can only get the Cocoa Krispies and Fruit Loops flavors, which is a kind of a shame, because the Applejack flavor is still discontinued, my favorite one of the bunch. And hey, maybe it might come back one day. But right now, I believe many who loved this as a child just find comfort knowing it has come back, and that they can get it whenever they want, with a piece of their childhood returning. Doritos 3D. Okay, this is some crazy shit. Okay, so have you ever eaten like those puffy Cheetos? Like, they're pretty good. They're not as good as the original, but they're still pretty solid. They're a nice substitute to the original Cheetos, which are hard. Well, Doritos, which are very flat, tried experimenting with itself and jumped into the puffy genre by introducing Doritos 3D. To promote Doritos 3D, they advertised a sexualized ad of a woman putting Doritos inside a dryer for whatever reason, and out pops out three-dimensional Doritos. It's kinda gnarly.
Introducing Doritos 3Ds. A whole new shape that begs to be eaten in very loud ways.
Dude, I've just learned to love these late 90s, early 2000s ads. Especially this one where it's the kid from Malcolm in the Middle doing like this Twilight Zone parody that then morphs into a rap for whatever reason. Yeah, Doritos 3D was a quintessential 90s and 2000s type of snack. Dude, they even had like the miniature type of like canister for the chips, which I have a distinct memory of like loving, not because of Doritos 3D, but because of the Cheetos Puff Balls that were in these type of canisters. You know, inspired by Pringles. For some reason, and maybe it's more like a placebo effect, I used to think that the chips that came in the canister went harder than the ones that were actually in plastic bags. Doritos 3D was one of the brand's most successful product innovations. However, it was eventually phased out in the early 2000s. It wouldn't be until the year 2020 when Doritos announced that they were bringing back Doritos 3D. In 2021, there was a Super Bowl ad featuring Matthew McConaughey, who's walking around all 2D and like flat until he has 3D Doritos and inflates himself back to normal, which reminds me of one of the most weirder ads. A banned Doritos 3D commercial, and where this guy's eating 3D chips, leading to this lady to be inflated, which is just, I don't know, dude, just watch it.
And you'll see. Take off your shoes and tap your feet.
Dude, what the f***? Nintendo cereal. So back in the 1980s, Nintendo advertised their very own cereal. It was based off of Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda, containing 2 separate bags, each of them containing items and characters subject to their original games. The commercial for the cereal had a jingle, and what's interesting about it is that to many who grew up watching this commercial, they still remember it nearly 35 years later after the release of this cereal.
Nintendo. 2 cereals in 1. Wow!
A YouTube commenter by the name of Frostybird said this: "I'm 35, I was just singing, Nintendo, it's a cereal, wow," and decided to see if that was an actual commercial I was randomly remembering. I literally haven't heard this jingle since the commercial was on TV back then. Somehow, in my memory vaults, it decided to come out from 30 years of hiding. This is the first time I've actually heard the commercial for myself in that long. I guess this is kind of the beauty of these commercials advertising food. Sure, they may just seem like snacks to us back then, but their ability to enter our subconscious and give us these endless memories just makes them so amazing. Like, there's nothing else really super special about the NES cereal, besides the fact that it was made as a product placement for video games. The Nintendo cereal makes me think about another Nintendo advertisement that was said to be lost for years, and where Nintendo partnered with Burger King, and Mario falls down and he ends up doing the Peter Griffin bit in where he like hurts his knee real bad. This wouldn't be the last time Nintendo did cereal. They would do it with Pokemon, not only once, but multiple times. However, the one that gives people the most nostalgia is when they did it for Generation 1, having Pikachu, Articuno, and Poliwhirl on the cover. If you want one of these, it's gonna cost you $100 sealed. In the 2020s, they released a Pokemon Berry Bolt cereal, which has Pikachu on the cereal, and that's really it. Unfortunately, no Poliwhirl, that's a shame. I believe they kinda lost the soul of the original 1990 cereal. Like, the original ads were like zany and funny. You know, the fact that there were multiple Pokemon on the box set and not just Pikachu provided way more character. It may be small and maybe it's a childhood thing of mine, but I do believe we've lost some kind of that soul in recent commercials. But you know, at this point I'm just complaining about a children's cereal, so what am I doing? If you like this video, I love you. I'm Zeepster, subscribe, see you guys soon.